Alon Goren, you've heard the tales. You've heard the Wikipedia short version. Oh, here he is, steps in studio. Okay, how close were we? Welcome to the program, first of all. And you're talking to 175 countries for Armed Forces Radio. You're talking to about 60 million TV homes for Biz Television Network, and of course here on radio. So. How were you listening when we were trying to describe it? Were we even close?
Yeah. No, you guys were very close.
You're full of crap. I don't believe him for 1 second.
No. See,
that's how it got. This is a politician, apparently.
The accurate part is the funding.
No, the accurate part was how complicated it is.
So someone needs money and people give.
Okay, so crowdfunding is a very buzzy word right now,
yes.
and as is crowdsourcing and everything else. So take us on crowdfunding 101.
So there's the Kickstarters of the world and Indiegogo of the world where people are basically pre-selling something.
Yeah, okay, now let's stop down for a second because that's important.
Pre-selling.
What they're basically, so let's say this iPhone holder, they've come up with something really bitchin'. And what they're doing is we're raising money. They're not really raising money. They're just selling units before they made it.
Oh, no
right?
kidding.
Isn't that kind of sort of what's happening?
I have a guy in my office, is really rock star company. I wanted to say a bad word. Really cool company called Mega Tiny Corporation.
Mega Tiny Corporation.
And he did a crowdfunding campaign for a really cool phone case.
Okay, so but that's Indiegogo, and what was the other one that you mentioned?
Kickstarter,
and that's basically you're just selling stuff in advance.
It's a rock star e-commerce campaign.
Right, but this is not crowdfunding in its purest, because crowdfunding in its purest is I've got a disruptive technology, I've got a disruptive business model, I need some seed capital, and I'm not actually selling a product. I'm selling an algorithm for social media. I'm selling a new app or whatever. Correct?
Yeah, and yeah, exactly what you're saying, and it's securities. You're actually getting a piece of stock, or you're getting equity in a company, or maybe investing in some debt in a company.
Sure.
So you actually are owning a piece of the company, and it normally works best for consumer products because people are selfish and they want to hold something.
Sure.
They don't. People aren't really totally getting the concept yet of equity. What does that mean to own 1% of a company?
So I calculated the other day, because I run a venture fund called Motion Venture Fund, along with a couple other general partners, and I calculated how much money I've raised in my career for other companies, and it's closing in on $560 million.
Wow.
All of it, though, through family office, private investors, private equity.
Credit cards?
No credit cards. And VCs, and venture capital.
Scooch.
This is different than that, though. Online funding, and part of the deal that has changed is regulation. So it was regulation, there was over-regulation, now there's just regulation again. And over-regulation happened as a result of 9/11. Would you agree?
Yeah.
Patriot Act comes along, suddenly we couldn't almost do anything.
Tough to wire money around and deal
That's exactly
like that.
Right.
And
now suddenly the pendulum swings in the other direction and we have crowdfunding. So kind of talk about the difference there for me.
Yeah, so the difference before was, you mentioned accredited investors before. You pretty much had to be wealthy. You had to have $1 million in net worth, not including your house.
Right.
Which is a
very small percentage of the country. And then of those people, actually very few of them participate anyway.
Because they have money.
Yeah.
I would argue
in startups is probably not the best way.
I would argue that when then I forget who the singer was who invested in Snapchat. She made herself I don't think they're adverse to making more money. Yeah. All right, Alon Goren's with us. We're going to take a quick one. He's going to come back. He's going to start covering the world of crowdfunding, because I understand what it is. Now we have to understand why it's okay now, because there's this thing called the SEC and FINRA. And well, I mean, there's regulations. You don't want to send 110% of 100%, Russ. No. So what happened to you last time at Russ's Tequila Factory? Oops. Alon Goren is with us. He is a financial pioneer and a crowdfunding expert, and he's kind of walking us through. You know, one of the things about this crowdfunding, a lot of people in the industry were concerned about, wow, what about all the disclosures? And what about, I mean, we even play a disclaimer here a couple times during the show, even when we don't have any public companies on, just because it's safe. Talk about how that's sort of changed, because that's changed everything, correct?
Oh, yeah. Well, it's not that they don't have to exist anymore. It's just that they're just a part of the process, and the process is so streamlined.
Right.
And there's even a company. There's a company whose sole job is to streamline the process of creating all your documents, called I Disclose.
No kidding.
Yeah. I Disclose.
So if you want, let's take it through the metrics of a guy has an app. Okay, because that seems to be sort of and look at, let's face it, it's a crowded space, but it's a needed space. And in fact, the phone feature on my phone is just an app I don't use.
Right.
I've decided
every so
at this
often.
point. The calling feature, but there'll be apps, and I think we'll have a need for them for a while. So let's say a guy wants to start an app, and he's probably got $30,000 in development costs.
Yeah.
he's got 10 or 15K in his own, and he says, okay, after development costs, I'm going to have to do this. So I'm going to raise $50,000 or $100,000. Take us through the process from there.
So I think the process is still similar to the old process. They got to figure out what they need, what they want, what they're willing to give for it.
Right.
And they've got to probably meet some investors and understand if what they want is realistic. But once they have that, they can now go online, compare it to a million other companies that are doing similar things, and then go on a site like Start Engine or WeFunder or Republic and put together basically an online version of a pitch deck where they can start sharing it and finding out if people are actually willing to invest.
Now, if you collect 50,000 and you spend 30,000.
No, that's not how it works.
What if you have 20,000 going?
Not how it works.
I mean, what if you only?
It's in working capital.
You think you're going to need 50.
Well, you're always going to need more
If
money.
you think you need 50, you probably need 100.
Oh, I got a question for you.
People underestimate.
Video or pitch deck? Pitch deck, by the way, is a PowerPoint presentation that they use to explain the deal.
That's nice.
It's called a pitch deck because when you print it out, it's like a little deck of cards. But so, pitch deck or video or both?
Definitely both.
Okay.
You start with the pitch deck because it changes every day, and you need to put your thoughts down somewhere.
Right.
And then video. And
you need a professional video, right?
You need for a campaign
Shot
itself,
by a
you need
professional video company such as Jump Television Studios. JumpTelevisionStudios.com is a what?
Because RussIsFatandBald.com was taken.
Just saying. I'm just saying there's a great company in San Diego that does it.
Yeah.
And Alon's going to do all his business with those people now.
I hope so.
Absolutely.
Okay, now let's talk about the investor side.
Yeah.
So that's the company side. They go through the process. They get there. And by the way, I think if I'm not mistaken, just like the old 504 and 505 and 506, you have to be fully subscribed. You don't get any of the money unless all the money's in.
Oh, really?
Is that now? That was the old days. How about now?
Yeah, it depends on the types of rules you choose and what you set forth from the beginning.
Okay.
So usually you set a minimum. So some sites they'll set the minimum at like $1. Some are a little more realistic.
Because back
like $50,000 to $1 million.
Privately held companies in the past, if you were raising $1 million and you had 990,000, you were not having access to that because that's how the SEC protected investors. Because if I put my 10K in,
that's what I'm thinking,
and they don't have enough money, if they're not fully funded to execute, I mean, could you imagine if they spent 10K at a time, they're never going to get it done. So crowdfunding is a little bit different. So
it really depends on what you choose in the particular deal.
Right.
Every deal is different.
Talk about the investor side now. Okay, so let's say you see the guy's pitch deck and impressive video that he did at Jump Television Studios at jumptelevisionstudios.com.
And you can get in at $1,000, right?
Or even less sometimes.
Or less.
$20.
Yeah.
So as an investor, he sees all this as, God, this looks like a really great thing. I want to get involved in the thing. I've read through. So take us through that process and what maybe the takeaways are for those guys. Because I could see me being sold personally, even in this business. I fall in love with deals, and it's the worst thing in the world.
Right.
I'm like, yes, let's write a check. He went to prison when?
No.
So talk about the kind of the beware sort of side of things.
Yeah, well, the good news is, and the bad news for companies is that most people get turned on to a deal by one of their friends, either in the company or their friend is investing. It's a friend of a friend, and they get brought along. Very few people get brought to the deal by the platform or by some marketing somewhere.
Just a random Google search, companies who invest.
Yeah,
hey, here's a company.
Yeah, how often does an investor decide, I'm going to go look for deals, to invest in? And that does happen when you're a professional investor, but we're talking about the general public.
Right.
So that's the good news. And even better news is that the public ends up weeding out a lot of the criminals and the people trying to pull
because there's
over.
still going to be that element. I mean, let's face it. The SEC wouldn't exist if there wasn't that element.
Yeah.
Let's face it.
Yeah.
So, what we're hearing about now is sort of REIT funding, which is real estate investment trust. But you can now buy a fractional piece of a building. We actually owned a fractional piece of a racehorse.
Well, yes, we did. We don't want to tell you what part, but it was round.
But the point is, you can now do real estate crowdfunding, correct?
Absolutely. That's actually something we announced the other day. So I do Crowd Invest Summit. It's the world's largest crowdfunding summit in LA at the LA Convention
Let's
Center.
talk about it. So that's in September. And we're going to be there broadcasting live, right?
I hope so. Yeah.
I think we should bring the
I
whole
think we
damn show
definitely
there.
should do it.
I think we should do the show.
Hey, there's
there.
the guy from Shark Tank. I love him.
There you go. We said we would absolutely. We would love to come up there in September and broadcast there.
We are
with
doing
you.
it.
And
now, with the
live
REIT
show
thing,
on
yeah,
stage.
absolutely, and sure, because I think this is really good content for us. But I think for you to sort of be able to explain to the masses what's going on, because it is a mystery. It's as much of a mystery as email was when we first had Prodigy and CompuServe, and now look at where it's at. Talk about the summit for a minute, because it's at September 6th and 7th at the LA Convention Center, and it's a crowdfunding summit.
Yeah, so we have over 50 companies on the expo floor every year who are actively fundraising. You could walk around, you could pull out your phone. I invested in a jeans company on...
You already said. He didn't say pull out your checkbook. He didn't
pull
say
out
pull out your wallet.
phone.
Pull out your camera.
Why would you pull out
your camera and invest?
PayPal,
right?
just gets transferred some money and go.
And you can also meet, so you mentioned real estate. The reason why I came out to San Diego today is because I was talking about how we're expanding the focus on real estate because a bunch of real estate funds like Origin Investments and RealCap, they're actually coming to our conference and going to the same investors that are investing in startups and saying, you could now invest in our fund, and we've lowered the minimum so much everyone can participate.
So you get to get a piece of something without, and let a professional guy manage this whole thing and get a part. You can be part of a great deal.
Yeah, alongside the same people who are investing hundreds of millions of dollars.
Talk to us about your company too. So first of all, and I want to have you on a number of times, even if we can do your Skype and stuff, because I want to promote this. Because if we're going to be there, I want to make sure you get plenty of exposure. But what does your company do specifically? You put on the summit, but do you also help folks with their crowdfunding, or is it more of a resource?
So my partner has a company called Crowdster, which actually automates the Twitter marketing for crowdfunding campaigns. Okay. Very, very cool. It's Crowdster with a K. What we've done is actually, we did the summit last year. We did it very, very last minute. We thought it would be fun because we always went to these tiny crowdfunding conferences that have 200, 300, 400 people at them. And we kept getting frustrated because none of the investors were there and none of the companies were there.
Okay, well, this is what I think we need to do. I think beginning next week, every week we need to have you on, and we break down a piece of this little by little, and I have a fantastic idea.
What's that?
I'm not going to tell you on the air. I'm going to tell Carlos, and I'm going to tell Alon. No, this is
I'm out of it?
No, I'm telling you right now. I have a great idea for crowdfunding that we could demonstrate over the next few months, and it will culminate in something really bitchin'.
Is it my app? Huh?
You take pictures and you share them real time, and then they disappear after a minute.
You're a genius.
No, I have a great idea. I'm gonna tell you. Alon, thank you so much. I appreciate it. We're gonna put your website up there, the crowdinvestsummit.com. You'll see us up on that stage. You'll see Alon up there too, and we'll see Alon as part of our show.
Hey, there's that guy from Shark Tank.
I thought that was Albert. I thought it was Alec Baldwin for a second. All right, we're back in a second.